Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Good seeing you.
Yeah. Come sing for us, man.
I'd love to.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. Sorry, we have some technical kinks we needed to straighten out, but thank you all for coming and being here at Oasis today. My name is Amy Wingert, and I'm going to be your host today. Can I get a raise of hands of how many people are new, or is this their first time? All right, quite a few. So, Cache Valley Oasis is a secular community dedicated to social interaction, intellectual exploration, and humanitarian service. We encourage respect of all beliefs, and all are welcome. The values of Cache Valley Oasis are people are more important than beliefs, reality is known through reason, meaning comes from making a difference, human hands solve human problems, and be accepting and be accepted. So you can find out about our events on our Cache Valley Oasis Facebook page, and if you haven't already, go ahead and like the page and you can get updates about what we're doing, service projects, and Sunday meetings. This coming Friday, March 18th, we're having a wetland highway cleanup. So several of us will meet up around 5 p.m. along Highway 30. We'll collect the garbage that's accumulated over the winter, and then after that, we'll all head over to the Beehive Grill for some dinner, good company, and drinks. Our next Sunday meeting will be March 27th. Li Guo, a professor from the university, will be speaking about secularism in China, and her presentation is titled From Sacred to Secular, Animal Images in Traditional Chinese Culture, which is sure to be very interesting. And also expect details soon about an Easter egg hunt on March 26th for any of you with little kiddos. Well, we have a really great program lined up for you today. Our musical guests are Afton Lovell and John Rash. Our community moment will be given by Jeremy or JP Parkin. And our featured speaker will be John Dehlin. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce our musical guests. Afton Lovell has lived in Cache Valley for 9 years. She's a vocal coach and teaches privately out of her studio in Smithfield. Afton loves musical theater and serves on the board of directors with Four Seasons Theater Company and is one of their in-house music directors. She's currently music directing their June production of Beauty and the Beast. In addition to music directing and teaching, Afton loves to perform, and she's really good at it. Some of her more recent performances are as the narrator in Joseph and the Technicolor Dreamcoat, musical director for Mary Poppins, and the Wicked Witch in The Wizard of Oz. John Rash, who will be singing with her today, is a native of Cache Valley and has spent most of his life performing. He graduated from USU in journalism and now works as an educator. He's been in musicals all over the valley, in Centerville and in Salt Lake as well, and some of his favorite roles include Joseph from Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, The Ghost of Christmas Past from A Christmas Carol, Jimmy from Thoroughly Modern Millie, Billy from Anything Goes, and Tate from Ragtime. John helped to found Four Seasons Theater Company, a Cache Valley family theater company, and currently serves as the Chief Operating Officer. So help me welcome them to the stage, Afton and John.
Okay, hello, I'm Afton Lovell. Amy is a good friend of mine. And she asked me if I would come and sing. And I'm a musical theater kind of girl, so you're going to get a lot of that today. One of the songs that I have chosen to sing is from The Hunchback of Notre Dame, the Broadway version, not the animated feature. And when I was thinking about what to sing, this just happened to be one of the ones that I've been working on lately. And I felt a little bit conflicted about it because I don't really believe in God, but I liked the message of it, praying and reaching out and helping others. At a point in the song, there's a part for parishioners, and I got to John and feel in that part, otherwise it'd be really weird. I don't know what's going on. So.
Just gonna watch her.
I don't know if you can hear, if you're even there. I don't know if you listen to humble prayer. Yes, I know I'm just an outcast. I shouldn't speak to you. Still, I see your face and wonder. Were you once an outcast too? God help the outcasts, hungry for birth. Show them the mercy, don't find them. God help my people, they look to you still. God help the outcasts, nobody
That was good, huh? I told you. All right, next on the agenda is our community moment. And Oasis Community Moment is a time for someone to share something they've learned or to share something about their journey through life. And today we'll be hearing from JP. JP is the head of finance at Thermo Fisher Scientific in Logan. He graduated from USU in 2006 and received an MBA from Cal State in 2009. He lives in Logan with his wife Juliana and two girls, Kaise and Isla. And when he's not in the office, JP enjoys traveling the world, hanging with his family, fantasy football, camping, soccer, and making money from credit cards. Help me bring JP to the stage.
All right, thanks, Amy. Appreciate it. We really appreciate all you do for Cache Valley Oasis. Your contributions have been amazing. I also want to thank John and Afton on that first piece. That is phenomenal. I love musicals. So thank you very much. So first of all, I just want to talk about finance, of all things. I'm a finance guy. It's in my DNA. It's all I think about. I always think about numbers. And so with that, something I am very passionate about around finance is credit cards. That's why we had Amy put that credit card piece at the end. This is something that has served me very well for the last 10 years. It's helped me achieve a lot of my goals as far as travel, fixing up my home, and just plain gifting. And this isn't a talk or a speech to go on how to manage your money or anything like that. This is the actual benefits that you can receive in doing this strategy that I'll go over in a minute for the credit cards. So from a high-level strategy, what this is, for example, you'll get a credit card maybe from United Airlines. They'll give you a $60,000 miles as long as you spend so much for the first few months. And so you're able to get free travel benefits. So that's kind of the high-level thing I was going to go over. Now, this strategy isn't for everyone. There's a few things that you need to accomplish in order to get there. But it's something very achievable as you go throughout your life. So some of the baseline expectations before I get into specifics is you have to be very disciplined. You have to pay off your credit card each month. A lot of the deals, they require you to spend a certain amount in order to receive the benefit. I usually like to open a new credit card. So, for example, if I'm buying a car and I have cash set aside for it, or if I have a medical expense that I have money set aside for it, I would like to open a new credit card that gives you this high benefit. That way, when I go and pay the credit card, I'm not only, buying this car or paying off this medical expense, I'm also getting a benefit from this credit card or a company that could be in excess of $1,000, depending on how you use your rewards. And so another example or another baseline piece is a lot of these credit cards, they will allow you the first year to be waived from the annual fee perspective. And so in order to get around that and not pay the annual fee but get the full benefit, you'll have to cancel the credit card within the first 10 to 11 months before you get charged that fee. Another piece is some credit cards you don't necessarily need the first year waived in order to receive the full benefit. Another baseline item is you need excellent credit from about 720 to 850. So that's mandatory in order to receive this benefit. Some of the perks. Can I pull this up? I don't like just standing and talking. So some of the perks you can get is you got airline miles, hotel points. You can get retirement account funding, dollars off your statement, things like that. Sorry, John, I forgot you're taping this. The key is to get credit cards that offer you all these points. And try your best to get the annual fee waived if possible. So in my experience, I do this a lot. I've been doing this the last 10 years, and it depends on how aggressive I am. And most recently, I've been pretty aggressive because I like to travel a lot. So in any given year, I'm getting around $1,500 to $3,000 in first-time card opening benefits, so not using the card. And so it's helped me achieve those goals. Now, if you, for example, get the Southwest card, you use it for 10 months, you cancel it, you can reapply for it in 24 months and get that benefit back. So you're always going to different cards in order to get this extra benefit. So some of my favorite cards are, now we'll kind of get into the detail, is the Chase Sapphire Preferred. This one has no annual fee, or the first year is waived, and then it's $85 fee. You get 50,000 points to start up. That's about $600 to $800 depending on how you use it. And for this one specifically, you'd use it for gift cards or travel. They do have merchandise, but that's generally overpriced. You get 2 times the points, which is fantastic. No foreign transaction fees if you're a world traveler. The catch is you have to spend about $4,000 in the first 3 months. So that kind of goes back to how I was talking about if you have a big purchase coming up and you have the cash to pay it, then this would be one you'd grab. Another one I like a lot, which I just got, was the Marriott card. Now this one has an annual fee. You have to pay $85, which is, with the benefit you get, it's okay. You get 80,000 points, and then you get another 7,500 points if you have an authorized user on there. Now the catch here is you need to spend $3,000 in the first 3 months. That 80,000 plus 7,500 points can get you up to $1,000 in benefit depending on how you use it. A lot of it is staying at a Marriott where you reap the most rewards. But you can get credit cards, you can get gift cards. You can use it to get experiences in different locations that you travel to, so on and so forth. So what happens when you do this is often as I do, because you're canceling credit card every 10 months. It has to have an effect on your credit, right? And it does. So what happens, it does have a small impact, but when I go to cancel a credit card, the first thing I do is if I have another card with the same financial institution, for example, Chase Bank, I will have them move my credit from Southwest credit card to, say, a Chase Sapphire Preferred or whatever that is. And that way, by showing you still have that same initial credit amount, so for example, I have $10,000 on my Chase card, or on my Southwest card, I have $10,000 on the Chase Sapphire Preferred. I would ask them to move the $10,000 credit limit I have to the Southwest card, to the Chase Sapphire Preferred card, so I have $20,000, and that will limit the hit you take when you cancel the card. So it's estimated that by doing this, you're going to lose about 20 to 30 points on your credit score, but within 3 to 5 months, you'll get back to where you were before. And so at any given time, my credit's in between about 770 to 820, depending on how aggressive I am in this credit card game. So it doesn't have a huge impact, but it will have a little bit. This is something I've shared, a strategy I've shared with friends and family, and we've actually began to do a yearly guys trip to San Diego that was based on this strategy. So I had a lot of friends get the Southwest card, and I think it's $59 annual fee, but you get 50,000 miles, which if you use it wisely or months in advance, you can get up to 6 round-trip tickets to San Diego just on that, and it costs you $59, and then you have to use a credit card. So it's a pretty phenomenal way if you are very disciplined in your spending and are able to put all your transactions in on the credit card. So throughout the year, there's going to be a lot of different benefits will come up, and it's something that credit cards sometimes during the year will only give you a very light initial reward. Other times they'll boost it up for like a month or two, and that's when I pounce and get the better ones. On top of this, you don't want to keep canceling cards without having that base couple credit cards. So I have 2 credit cards that I go to that have 0 annual fees that I keep with me and I use from time to time, just because from a credit perspective, it shows that you're staying with a company long term. And that way you're not going to get as big of a credit hit as well. And when you do sign up for those $0 fees, there are cards out there that you can get $300 to $400 in benefit for just using the card, spending $1,000 over 3 months or something like that. The one I go to is Hilton. They'll give you about $300 to $400 in benefit for a 0 annual fee, and I just use that when I stay at Hilton Properties or Hampton Inn. Another one I like is the Chase Freedom, where they'll give you about $200 to $300 in cash back just for using the card for the first 3 months. So that's a pretty cool benefit too. And they give you 5, and I use that from time to time because they have categories that you can get 5% back cash. So when I'm not using my Marriott card or these other ones that have annual fees, I use those two. But there's a lot of great ones out there. So some of the websites I like that you can see what's going on in the market for credit cards and getting those benefits is you have the pointsguy.com, which is a pretty fantastic website. They'll keep you up to speed through, they have a lot of stories and articles along with hot deals where they'll give you a couple of the deals that I've mentioned. And then milecards.com, which is pretty cool. They'll tweet out some of the cool deals out there. And you can also reach out to the moderators and other users for what they're seeing in the market. So just a final recap on this strategy, because I know I've thrown a lot of information out to you, is you got to be disciplined. You got to pay it off each month in full to get this benefit. A lot of the deals require you to spend a certain amount over 3-4 months in order to achieve the benefit. And I will open a card usually when I have a large purchase coming up, something like medical expense or a car, for example. Last year I bought a car, and the dealership allows you to pay up $4,000 in credit cards. And so I opened up 2 new credit cards, put 2 on each, and then I ended up getting $1,200 in benefit just on that, which kind of even made it more reasonable for me to buy a car. So that's kind of what's going on in my head when I buy things. Like, how can I get more benefit out of this and further myself later through traveling or whatever? So the last piece is make sure you cancel within the 10th month if the credit card has an annual fee. And you want to realize all your points up to that time. So, for example, Barclay cards, you get points for that Barclay financial institution. You need to use your points by the time you cancel the credit card and it's paid off in full. But Southwest, who goes through Chase, that goes to your southwest.com rapid rewards program. So you can keep those points on your southwest.com profile, and you do not have to use all of them up front, if that makes sense to you. And the last piece is they don't all have to be Wave first year cards in order to receive this enormous benefit. So last thing, I just, afterwards, let me know if you have any questions. I know there's not a lot of finance people out here, and I hope this was interesting to a few people, but I love this. Like, this is something I can talk days on. I talk with the neighbors all the time. We've been able to plan a trip to New York later in June because they've used this strategy. And if you are into this and you love it and you know of an amazing deal, see me afterwards. Thank you. Oh yeah, last thing too. I am the treasurer currently for Oasis, and we do have money receipts if anyone wants to use for tax purposes. If you're looking at a larger donation or just $10 or whatever, I can provide that to you. Just let me know. And we do have our PayPal account set up as well, and that is at cashvalleyoasis@gmail.com is the email address to do so. And if you have any questions about that as well, just see me afterwards. Thanks.
Thank you so much, JP. Wow, what useful information. I think I'm going to have to sit down with him later. I'd love to plan a trip to New York. All right, we're going to have another musical number by Afton and John, so let's bring them back up.
Hello. Oh, it's off.
Hello. Oh, there it is. Okay. So this next song we're going to sing wound up in chords here. I need to bring this around you after. This is a song that I've loved for a long time. It's a lot of fun. It's a duet, and I've never had someone I could sing it with, so I've never been able to perform it. But then when Afton asked the other day if I wanted to sing with her. I was like, perfect song. This is called I Give It All For You. It's from the musical Songs for a New World.
So it's old for him, but it's brand new for me, so that's the music.
It was better without you. I was safer alone. No, I give it all for you. I give it all for you by my side once more. Oh, I give it all for you. I give it all to hold you again, to feel I'm completed, to know that then that all that I need is you, to fight the fear. And now you're here. I took a trip when I was gone. I cashed in all my savings, bought an underwater, drove to Tennessee. We took a trip while I was gone. I drove across the country, stopped at lots of diners, and stared at a million stars, and thought I could touch the sky. And I tried to believe it. It was better without you. I was finally free. No, I give it all for you. I give it all for you by my side once more. Oh, I give it all for you. I give it 'cause the mountains I climb get higher and higher, and run from time, and walking through fire, and dreams of stars come true. But now they're through. Cause it's easy to hide from the things that you feel. Hard to blindly trust what you can't understand. God knows it's easy to run from the people you love, and hard to stand and fight for the things you believe. Nothing around us was perfect or clear, and when paradise calls me, I'd rather be here. There's something between us that nobody else needs to see. There are oceans to cross, there are mountains to conquer, there's still on the shore, and there's still on the cliff. And the second before I jumped, I knew where I needed to be. Oh, I give it all for you. I give it all for you by my side once more. Oh, I give it all for you. I give it 'cause it's hard to touch the things that are dearer. I love you too much to trust something clearer. I know I've been too far, but here you are.
Boy, they left me with chills. They are so good. Thank you so much for that beautiful song. Okay, next we're going to hear from our featured speaker, our very own John Dehlin. John Dehlin is a podcaster, social activist, and researcher. He received a Ph.D. in clinical and counseling psychology from USU in 2015. His research interests involve the nexus of religion and mental health. John's research has been published in numerous peer-reviewed scientific journals, including the Journal of Counseling Psychology, the Journal of Sex and Marital Therapy, Identity, the Journal of Cognitive Psychotherapy, the Journal of Homosexuality, and the Journal for Scientific Study of Religion. Prior to obtaining his PhD, John worked for 7 years at Microsoft Corporation and 3 years at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology as the director of the International Open Courseware Consortium. John is the founder of Mormon Stories podcast, the most popular and longest-running podcast within Mormonism. Mormon Stories podcast was established to explore and challenge Mormon culture. John's work has been featured in the New York Times, National Public Radio, ABC's Good Morning America, ABC's Nightline, The Wall Street Journal, The Huffington Post, VH1, and Radio West. Today, his presentation is called How Mormonism Led Me Out of Mormonism. So without further ado, help me welcome John to the stage.
Wow, I got shouts. Thank you so much, Amy. I just want to say that Amy, along with so many people on the Oasis board and all the volunteers, put so much work into making something like today possible. So I just want to thank Amy. I want to thank all the volunteers, those who are helping out, watching our children, Robert, who's manning the AV, Connor, who's manning the Periscope stream, and all the people that work behind the scenes. I want to thank Afton and John for their beautiful musical numbers. Thank you so much. And JP, I'm going to have to rewatch that presentation, but I know there's a lot there that we can benefit from. So thank you for sharing that as well. I'm so happy that you guys are here. I did a quick count. I think we have about 110 people here today. I think that's the largest group we've ever had. I could be wrong, but numbers aren't really what we're going for. We're just going for giving people good experiences and trying to build community. So I am just thrilled to have so many of you here. I do see a few new faces and several familiar ones. Before I jump into my presentation, I want to give a little bit of a disclaimer. We all believe in the Oasis leadership and in the community that it's really important that everybody feels comfortable when they come here. And part of that means that we're explicitly never sort of anti-religious, that we don't fixate on, challenges or problems of the past, and that we kind of stay focused on what's uplifting, what's uniting, and sort of healing and growth. And so I say that knowing that what I just said may not jive with the title that you see here on the screen. And so I just want to try and explain that for a second. So for those of you who are, still active or believing in the LDS Church or any religion or faith, I just want to try and maybe give you an appeal that you'll give this a chance, because I hope that my love for Mormonism and for the LDS Church shines through in this presentation. However, I am also going to express some of the things that were difficult for me as a member. I hope that you can distinguish between sort of mean-spirited, pointless bashing or criticism and genuine, heartfelt expression of joy and concern. And that's the spirit with which I'm going to give this talk. There's going to be positive and negative, but I hope that you see the purpose behind it. And even if we disagree on something, that's sort of a value we have here at Oasis, that we want to embrace diversity, and we want to give people a chance to share their authentic experiences. And one of the values we like to practice is, even if we disagree, we can still do our best to put ourselves in the other person's perspective. So for those of you who would be inclined maybe to feel offended or put off by some of the more critical things I may say, I would ask you not to think about me attacking your beliefs, but instead just to sort of asking and inviting you to maybe consider another perspective, and to do it in the spirit of love and fellowship. Is that all right? Okay, so that's my little disclaimer. What's that? So I guess I want to begin by talking about how I feel like I lived the Mormon dream. That is a picture of my great-grandfather. His name was William Brigham Parkinson. And one of the reasons I'm so excited to talk about William Brigham Parkinson is because even though he was born in England, he joined the church and he immigrated here to the United States as a boy, I want to say around the 1850s. And his parents died either right before or right after his immigration here. He had to live with a step-parent, and he traveled across the country. I think he spent some time mining in Wyoming, but eventually he ended up right here in Cache Valley. And so it's interesting to note, he was a physician, and this is him parked in front of sort of Main Street, Logan, Cache Valley, in front of his drugstore. So he ran a drugstore as one of the first licensed physicians in Logan. And that's him in his horseless carriage around 1912. And he was one of the first citizens of Logan to actually have a horseless carriage. So he was quite proud of that fact. And I'm proud that he was my great-grandfather and that he's a Cache Valley person. Several years later, he actually was one of the first people in Logan to buy an automobile. So that's William Brigham Parkinson in front of his automobile, again on Main Street here in Logan. That's my great-grandfather. This was he and his wife, Edith Benson. She's a cousin to Ezra T. Benson, Ezra Taft Benson, so I am related to one of our prophets through Edith. She was the daughter of Ezra T. Benson, I believe, who's one of the early apostles. I could be getting that wrong. And then this is their beautiful family. So that's Edith in the middle and William, and then Karma is right there on the left. That's my grandmother. So that's my mother's mother, and she was raised here in Cache Valley. She was one of the first, as I understand it, one of the first females to graduate from Utah Agricultural College, which is what it was called, I think, before it was called Utah State University. So there's a little bit of feminism in my upbringing. And that's my grandma Karma as I knew her. So I did get to know her kind of in her 80s when I was growing up in Texas. She was still alive. And that's how I remember Grandma Karma. And I remember this is my mother's mother. Now, I didn't tell you the full story because this is William Brigham Parkinson with his 4 wives, okay? And Edith Benson was the 3rd of the 4th wife. If you ever want to hear a really interesting story, I'll tell you the story of his 4th wife, Margaret Shaw. It's jaw-dropping, but I'll save that for another time. But that's my great-grandfather. So my grandmother lived as the daughter of a 3rd wife in a polygamous marriage. That's how close polygamy is to my ancestry. Now, that's my mom and dad when they were sealed, I believe, in the St. George Temple, somewhere in the late 50s, early 60s. That's me as a baby. So I was born in the covenant to a temple marriage. I have so many fond memories growing up in the church. Now, interestingly enough, my parents left Idaho and Utah and moved to Texas when I was 2 years old. So I grew up in Houston. And one of my fondest memories, for example, connected to the church was being in the Cub Scouts. So super fun activity. The sort of Houston Cub Scouts at large had a decathlon. And this is me competing in the sort of citywide decathlon in Houston as a boy. And I loved it. This was so meaningful to me. I can't tell you how much I enjoyed experiences like this. That's me getting second place in the decathlon. They say that second place is first loser, but I was still proud of myself even so. That's a picture of my family with Karma and Bernice, my grandfather. So that's me in the bottom right as the youngest of 4 children. That is us a little bit older in our house in Katy, Texas. That's me on the left, the bottom left, John Travoltaing it up a little bit. A little Saturday Night Fever going on there. Some more polyester than our eyes can sometimes take. That's me playing, basketball for our high school basketball team. Loved playing basketball. That's me at one of the proms or homecomings with one of my good friends, Chad. We like to kind of rock the stake dances in those days. And I guess I'm showing you all this just to say that when we think about Nephi and the Book of Mormon and the Tree of Life, and remember how the fruit was so bright and precious that what was the first thing that you wanted to do once you tasted of the fruit? Share it. Many Mormons here, right? We wanted to share that fruit with others. That's how I always felt about my Mormon upbringing. It was so beautiful. It was so idyllic. It was just like the Mormon dream. But one of my favorite parts about growing up Mormon were the Mormon values that I learned as a boy. So that's me in high school. And, even though there were lots of opportunities to kind of fool around and have fun and party and do other sorts of things, I was really proud of my values to be a Mormon. And so part of that meant for me never trying alcohol. To this day, I haven't tried alcohol. No tea, no tobacco, right? No coffee, no drugs, no premarital sex, no masturbation. Those are actually things that I actually got married having never done any of those things. And that was a real badge of honor for me. And some of you may not believe that, but it's true. And I've done many of those things since. But I was able to make it to marriage without doing those things. And, it's funny because I took this as you would think, oh, what a boring high school. Like you missed out on all the fun. What were you doing? For me, it was just this point of pride because I loved these values and they made me different. They made me proud of myself and I loved them. But also some of the things that I loved were some of the songs that I learned in primary, and specifically some of the values that I gleaned from the songs that I sang in primary. So I'm going to ask you guys, those of you who know these songs, we're going to sing a couple as a group. Is that okay? All right, here we go. First one is Give, Said the Little Stream. This is about service to me. Let's sing it. Ready? Give, said the little stream, give, oh give, give, oh give. Give, said the little stream as he hurried down the hill. I'm small, I know, but wherever I go, the grass grows greener still. Singing, singing all the day, give away, oh give away. Singing, singing all the day, give, oh give away. All right, give yourselves a hand. Now, on a serious note, for some people, their experience with the LDS Church was so traumatic that it's actually a little bit traumatic for them to sing hymns and primary songs. Does anybody kind of feel that way? Okay, we have a few hands going up. My apologies. But also, even for those of you who maybe have left the church, how many of you still feel good kind of singing those songs? Anybody? Yeah, I do too, right? So that's one of the ones, and it was about service. And so I remember this time, just as a small example, I remember this time where it was kind of Thanksgiving time. I was trying to figure out, how do I internalize these values? And I'm with my brother, we're like at a 7-Eleven, and we see this kind of poor guy on the street who looks kind of homeless. And we kind of took that value to heart, and we just looked at each other and said, what can we do for Thanksgiving to show service? And I just remember this sweet moment where we ran to a local kind of restaurant. We bought this little turkey dinner in a little styrofoam kind of wrapper, and my brother and I took it to this homeless guy on the street and gave him a Thanksgiving meal. And that was a small example of sort of how these values were internalized. And it made us feel really good, and it made me feel really good. Another song that I love that my older children are going to remember actually singing, we would sing this with them every morning when we had prayer or when we had family evening. I think my kids still know the song. Maya, Claire, do you guys remember the song? Yeah, Dare to Do Right. Can we sing it? All right, ready? Dare to do right, dare to be true. You have a work that no other can do. Do it so bravely, so kindly, so well. Angels will hasten the story to tell. Dare, dare, dare to do right. Dare, dare, dare to be true. Dare to be true. Dare to be true. Beautiful. You guys did great. So this reminds me of another story that I have, and it may sound a little bit funny. When I was in 5th grade, I loved PE. It was my favorite of all my classes. So they implemented this program where we'd do laps every single day in PE, running around the gym. And every lap you'd make, you'd collect a straw. And at the end of the period, you'd collect all the straws, and you'd give them to the PE teacher. They'd count them up. And if you had a certain amount of points at the end of the year, you get to go to a camp out where all the kids in the grade got to go to a camp out. And I think I was first or second in the whole school for the number of points earned. I was so super excited to go to this camp out. The only slight wrinkle was that I had a little bit of a problem. Somehow I developed this really dumb habit of stealing from the local grocery store. I don't know why, but I did. I don't know if I just didn't have the money that I wanted. I don't know if like my parents, were struggling financially, but I would steal stuff. And so I'm thinking, I've got this camp out coming up. I'm really excited. What do I need? I need some pocket knives. So I literally went to like Eckerd Drugs, and I stole 4 pocket knives from the drugstore. They didn't see me. I get home. I'm all excited. I got my tent in my, sleeping bag already. I put the 4 knives in the sleeping bag, and I roll it up really good and tie it, and I'm ready to go. So I've got all my camping gear ready, and then my dad looks at my camping gear, and he says, "Hey, son, your sleeping bag isn't rolled up quite right. Is it okay if we unwrap it and I teach you how to roll it up properly?" And like my heart fell into my stomach. And sure enough, Dad unrolls the sleeping bag, and there's those 4 pocket knives. Now, even though I was living in sin and stealing, when Dad asked me where I got the pocket knives, I felt like I couldn't lie because I had been taught to dare to do right. And so I told him, I said, "Dad, I stole the pocket knives." And later we talked about what the consequence should be. And we decided that the consequence should be that I should tell my PE teacher that I'd stolen these pocket knives, and that meant that I shouldn't go to the camp out. So all the kids got to go to that camp out. I had worked all year for it, and I didn't get to go. Now the good news is I never stole again. At least I don't think I did. But for me, even though I wasn't doing everything that I should, I was actually kind of proud to stay home because I felt like I was doing what was right, even though it was hard, because that's kind of what I learned from my Mormon values, to do what's right even when it's hard. The last song that I'll share with you for today that we'll sing together is a song called "I'll Walk With You." This song is written by a very dear friend of mine named Carolyn Pearson, and it probably is my favorite hymn in the primary book. How many of you know this hymn? All right, we're going to sing it. Ready? I'll try not to get choked up. Here we go. If you don't walk as most people do, some people walk away from you, but I won't. If you don't talk as most people do, some people talk and laugh at you, but I won't. I'll walk with you, I'll talk with you, that's how I'll show my love for you. Loved it. So service was a really important value for me growing up Mormon. And a funny example of this that I'll share is a very Mormon one. I'm a sophomore at BYU, I'm an RA in the dorms, and it's homecoming time. And I notice that there are all sorts of people going to homecoming, but there's this huge block of people, a couple guys, but mostly girls, who weren't invited to homecoming. And it may sound cheesy, it may sound dumb, it may be weirdly, bizarrely, polygamously Mormon, but I had the idea to rent a 12-seat passenger van and invite anyone who didn't get asked to homecoming to homecoming. And so that's the picture we took. We all got dressed up. We all got in the passenger van. We all went to the Salt Lake City jail or whatever it's called to have dinner, and we all went to homecoming together. And I don't want to sound a little bit cheesy like I did everyone this huge favor, but that's a value that I gained from my Mormonism, that you try and show kindness, you try and look for opportunities to serve and to show love, especially when you feel like people need it. So those are the three values that I wanted to highlight today, that I, to this day, am so grateful to my church for teaching me. Values of courage, of daring to do right, of service, to give kindness to give to others, and of kindness to show love, especially to those who are in need. So, if I had this beautiful, perfect Mormon dream, right? What happened? How in the world did I end up where I am now? I'll tell you. So, we begin with my, perfect Mormon family, right? Married in the temple, we're all going to be together forever. You guys have heard the hymn, right? I have a family here on earth, they are so good to me. I want to share my life with them through all eternity. Families can be together forever through Heavenly Father's plan. I always want to be with my own family, and the Lord has shown me how I can. Now that is a beautiful doctrine. It's a beautiful teaching. I love it. But here's the catch. The catch is that sometimes things don't go the way you plan. And so as an example, when I was kind of in that middle school time period, my parents came to us and told us that they were getting a divorce. And that wasn't enough to sort of really put a crack in my testimony, because people aren't perfect, right? But what it started in me was this crack thinking about, wow, so I'm sitting up there, it's the primary program, I'm up on stage with all these kids, we're singing this song, Families Can Be Together Forever, and I'm looking down at my mom crying in the audience. And not only am I thinking about how sad she might be, I'm thinking about all the other people in the world who don't have that temple marriage. And I'm thinking, yeah, but there's that value of service and kindness and love and charity, and what about all these other people? And it never sat quite right with me that it was so exclusive, that you had to have kind of that Mormon temple sealing in a Mormon marriage. And I know that we have proxy work for the dead, but it's pretty clear that narrow is the gate and few there be that find the celestial kingdom. That's the whole point, right? And so that sort of was something that I struggled with, and that was a little bit of a crack in my faith. The next one was kind of funny, and some of you have heard this story, but anyone know who that person is on the right? Renee Zellweger. You guys ever heard of Renee Zellweger? Okay, who's heard this story already? Well, I apologize if you've heard it already. So Renee Zellweger is an Academy Award-winning actress. She was in Cold Mountain, she was in Bridget Jones's Diary, she was in, what's the Tom Cruise one? Guys, show me the money. Jerry Maguire. Great movies. Chicago. Well, we went to high school together. So we were freshmen together at Katy High School. We became really close friends. And if my wife will forgive me, she's heard the story before, I will admit that I had a bit of a crush on Renee Zellweger. Margie says she's given me permission to tell the story. So loved Renee and always wanted to go out with her. Now, we had these awesome stake dances growing up in Katy, Texas, and I felt like I was kind of the king of the stake dances. So it's my junior year, it's New Year's Eve, right? And I get up the nerve to ask Renee Zellweger to a stake dance, our New Year's Eve stake dance. She accepts, she puts on this beautiful sort of black velvet dress, I'm all dressed in my suit, we go to the stake dance. It's about a 35-minute drive from Katy to Bear Creek. We get in the stake chapel. I can see through the doors, the kids dancing. I'm ready to kind of rule the evening with my beautiful date in tow. And we're stopped at the door by the young women's leader. And she stops us cold, and she looks at Renee, who had this beautifully modest dress, but the dress came slightly off her shoulders. petite, totally modest, but her shoulders were showing. And she said, oh, wait, stop, you can't go in there. Miss, your dress isn't modest. And I'm like, oh, no, sorry. And I pull off to the side and I say, no, it's okay, she's not a member. And the lady said, I'm sorry, there's nothing I can do. This is gonna be embarrassing, and all the other girls are gonna feel inappropriate, the boys will feel inappropriate. She either needs to wear your suit coat throughout the whole dance, or she needs to go home and change. So that's what we did. We went home, but instead of her changing, she burst into tears on the way home. And she just said, take me home, drop me off. And I did. And that was the end of our date. Now, I won't criticize the LDS Church for losing the chance to have their equivalent of a John Travolta or a Tom Cruise to the Scientology sort of thing, right? They could have maybe had Renee, I don't know. But it wasn't that they ruined this awesome date for me that hurt my feelings. It was that this leader couldn't see the difference between sort of some values that we hold sacred and sort of kind of a bigger purpose and the feelings and the message that would be sending about rules over people in this experience. And again, I don't fault the woman who did it. I don't fault the church. It's probably partly my fault. I should have told her or warned her. But that was a bit of a crack for me because I just thought, man, if this church ever gets to the point where they value rules and regulations over people, I worry about that. I don't feel like maybe that's in harmony with the values that I grew up with that were very Mormon. Another very brief thing that I did as a high schooler was once I just did the math. I'm just thinking there in seminary, they're talking about, it's probably New Testament, how narrow is the gate. I'm thinking about how few people are going to be in the celestial kingdom. And so I just did the math. It was about 10 million Mormons. It's about 5 billion people on the earth. And I just I did the division, right? I came up with a number that's less than 0.5%. So that's not 2%, right? That's 0.2%, okay? Less than 0.5%. That's how many are baptized Mormon. It's even less if you talk about active Mormons who are temple worthy and all that. And I just started thinking to myself, oh my gosh, I want to believe this is the one true church. I want to believe that this is all true. But how in the world could God have this super special purpose and this super special plan for all of us, and less than 0.5% of all his children on the earth are ever going to really be able to live out that plan while they're on the earth? And that didn't make a lot of sense to me, and so that was another crack in my testimony. Again, it was rooted in this feeling about we're leaving people behind. We can't exclude people. We can't be leaving people behind. The next kind of really big crack came while I was on my mission in Guatemala. I loved Guatemala. I loved the people. I was a branch president twice, had a lot of success, but something kind of really crazy happened about 2 months into my mission. So the mission president was named Gordon Romney. He's this really nice guy. There's a picture of him. He's a cousin to Mitt Romney. Spoke wonderful Spanish, was this excellent businessman. And he would publish a newsletter every month that would talk about the highest baptizing missions and zones in the mission. And that's okay, right? I mean, you want to reward people for their success, and we have to track the numbers, so why not have a newsletter that shows the numbers, right? And one of the things that I noticed, so this is from February 14th, 1989, so I'm a few months into my mission, and I notice there are these companionships that baptized 30, 23, 39 people in a month. Now, if you do the math on that, 40 people in a month, that's more than one person a day. And I'm thinking to myself, how in the world do you baptize 40 people in a month? That's one a day. It's crazy, right? It's a miracle, right? But then I found out what techniques they were using. This is what they would do. These missionaries would party all week long. They'd go to movies. They'd go on dates with girls. They'd leave the mission boundaries and go to other countries. But what they'd do is, like every Saturday, they'd go to the local soccer field and they'd play soccer with the children. The really poor children, the poorest neighborhood, play soccer. 8 or 10 kids. Get them all hot and steamy. All these white Americans are coming, having fun. It's really exciting. When everybody was tired, when everybody was hot, they'd say, hey, let's go back to the chapel and cool off. They'd have the baptismal font ready, and they would baptize about 10 kids at a time. That's 10 in a week. No discussions, no parental permission, never been to church, baptize 10 kids, party for the next week, do the same thing again the very next Saturday. Now, this is how it was told to me by people who watched it happen. This elder who told me he saw this happen, he's a bishop he's in a bishopric along the Wasatch Front right now. He told me that one time he actually saw a kid do a cannonball in the baptismal font during the baptismal ceremony. That's how much fun they were having. Well, I went to my mission president and I thought, oh my gosh, this is the most horrible thing that's ever happened. This is a spiritual bad thing. And so I went to President, I sometimes use extreme terms, so I'm trying to amp down the rhetoric. So I went to President Romney thinking, oh my gosh, he'll want to know, right? He'll want to know and he'll fix this. Well, instead of getting upset and punishing those missionaries, he promoted them to assistants to the president, and he punished me. And he exiled me to an area that was a 5-hour bus ride to the nearest telephone and an 11-hour bus ride to the mission home. And he said, Elder Dehlin, don't you ever disagree or defy your priesthood leadership again. Now, I got so traumatically sick from that experience that I developed this really awful asthma condition about 20 months into my mission. So I'm condensing a couple stories, but by about 20 months, I'm sick. He sends me home early with good status. But being the Mormon that I am, I'm not ending my mission early. So I end up in the Arizona Tempe mission for my last 4 months. I'm a zone leader there. And it just so happens that my mission president there, Durrell Woolsey, had just been called to be a general authority. So I'm like, sweet, this is my chance. I'm going to tell Durrell Woolsey what's going on back in Guatemala. He's going to call church headquarters, and they're going to unseat President Romney. Well, that's not what happened. What happened was President Woolsey called Salt Lake, and Salt Lake told President Woolsey, you know what? President Romney's only got 6 or 7 months left on his mission. This would be a really bad press thing for the church. We're just going to kind of let him go. And not only did they let him go, but when he got home from his mission, they put him on the missionary committee for church headquarters. And when you look now at how we have 16 or 18,000 members on record, but only about 16 or 18 million members on record, but only about 5 million who are actually attending, it's because in Latin America and the Philippines and in Africa, they're doing things like this. Not all the time, but in different ways, they're doing variations of this. Now, again, that doesn't make the church false, right? Mistakes happen. But it was another crack for me because I felt like I was doing something courageous. I felt like I was doing what was right and standing up for truth. And I felt like I got punished for it. So that was another crack in my soul. So I come home with this kind of dark pit in my soul. I go to BYU. I meet my beautiful wife, Margie. We get married in the temple. We start serving actively in the church. Start having kids. And it was still a beautiful life. Up until 2000, 2001, I'm still living the Mormon dream. But then what happened? I was such a good Sunday school teacher that they called me to be a seminary teacher. By the bishop's daughter, believe it or not. So I'm in a seminary, teaching seminary, and church history comes up as the next topic for seminary after the Book of Mormon. So we do church history, and I want to be a really good seminary teacher, so I start studying church history in depth. Because I kind of knew the history, but I didn't really know it. So around 2000, 2001, I start reading all these books. And I start reading about Joseph Smith. And I knew that he was married to Emma, and I knew that that at some point we started practicing polygamy. But 31 years in the church, call me crazy, never once did I hear mention of any other wife of Joseph Smith than Emma. To me, he was always depicted as this one man, one wife, super awesome, faithful husband. And maybe he was in some ways. But what I learned by studying was that not only did he have more than 30 wives, but that a certain number of those wives were underage, like 14, 15, 16, and that a good chunk of them were married to other men when he married them. And that sometimes he would send a guy on a mission and then propose to his wife while the guy was out of town. Now, this is not me making this up. The church has acknowledged all this in their recent essays. And I don't know, maybe in some crazy world that if I had been inoculated appropriately, I would have been okay with that. What I really struggled with was I was 31 years old. I'd been through 12 or 16 years of primary and Sunday school. I'd served a 2-year mission for the church. I'd been through 4 years of education in the BYU religion program. I'd been through Sunday school for how many years? By the age of 31, I had somehow been born into this church, lived it for 31 years, had never heard one mention of another wife, let alone 30, let alone 14-year-olds, let alone other men's wives. And that's when things got really serious for me, because for the first time, I started saying, something's not right. Something's not going on. I don't feel like I've been dealt with honestly, because if I'd been dealt with honestly, I would have known this somewhere along the way. Someone would have told me. Instead, I felt like people were hiding these things from me and like I had been fooled again, just like on my mission, right? So more cracks developed. Finally, some of the biggest cracks that kind of blew it open were I'm working at Microsoft, the internet's around 2000, 2001, and this story comes across on the internet. And here's what it says. Young returned missionary Mormon, Stuart Mattis, up and coming IT, professional, walks up to his stake chapel in California, pins a note to his chest that says, "Do not resuscitate," and shoots himself at the steps of his LDS stake chapel. And I'm like, what? Why would anybody do that? Now, I had not been raised to be, super supportive of LGBT people, of gay, lesbian, bisexual people. I certainly was taught that homosexuality was evil, that it was perversion, that it was wicked, right? But that didn't seem right to me, that somebody would go to that length because they were in so much suffering. And that was a little bit distant, right? That was a little bit kind of like, oh, wow, a news article. That's kind of disturbing. What often happens is kind of when it hits home in your own area. So my beautiful wife, Margie, has this cousin named Scott who's never been Mormon, but he grew up in Vermont and, NCAA golfer, graduated as an economist from a really, good school, beautiful person, great athlete, tennis player, golfer, love the guy, super sweet, sensitive, he's an artist, plays the guitar classically, just a beautiful human being, one of our favorite people in the world. All of a sudden, he moves from Vermont all the way to Central Washington while we're in Seattle. We're like, Scott, you already have your degree. Why are you going back to school to get a bachelor's degree in music therapy? Why are you moving all the way across the country? It just seems so odd. And for years, we didn't know why. Until one day he comes to me and Margie, and he says, Margie and John, I've got something to tell you. I haven't even told my parents yet, but I'm gay. And the reason why I traveled from Vermont to Central Washington is because I had almost killed myself not knowing what to do with being gay. And so I needed a place where I could be safe, to talk to a counselor, to meet people, and to figure this out. And that's what I did. And he told us before he told his own father. And I just thought to myself, if someone as beautiful as Scott, such a beautiful human, is seriously contemplating taking his own life for something that he didn't choose, that he spent 30 years trying to change, we're not looking at that issue correctly. And those types of suicides are unacceptable. When I moved here to Logan, an article came out in the Deseret News that said youth suicide is an epidemic in Utah. And I thought, And it said that young men from the age, that Utah led the nation in suicide of young men from the ages of 15 to 24. And I'm thinking, why would Utah lead the nation in suicide of young men between the ages of 15 and 24. So I dug a little deeper, and I found out that about a third of those to a half were estimated to be gay young men who, for some reason, felt that they had to kill themselves because they couldn't change who they were, or they tried and they couldn't. And it was sort of those culmination of cracks that sort of broke my testimony wide open. It didn't make me say the church was bad. It didn't make me say the church was evil, right? But it made me feel like something was wrong. And I had learned courage, I had learned kindness, I had learned service from the church. And so I decided that I was going to put those very Mormon values into action, right? Because I remembered this song, right? I'll walk with you. It's not going to be okay to just sort of label them apostates and kick them out of the church and let them go on their merry way. That was not going to be acceptable. So what did I do? I moved here to Cache Valley. I start Mormon Stories. One of the early topics that we start talking about are gay and lesbian, Mormons. Proposition 8 happens in 2008. I start becoming sort of an activist for LGBT people. I actually go into a Ph.D. program with the specific interest of studying the LGBT Mormon experience. That's what my dissertation was on, which led to the university inviting me to give a TED Talk about being an ally for LGBT people as a Mormon. And I'm just telling you, I didn't do this because I was trying to cause trouble. I didn't do this because I wanted to stick it to the side of the church. I did this because I was operating from a place of sincere values that my church had taught me, that this is what you do. You use your courage and your compassion to try and help people who are in need and who are suffering. So the gifts out of the little stream sort of is another, sort of hymn that inspired me. And of course, you all know what happened. To make a really long story short, after a couple stake presidents, I get called in 3 months after I give that TED Talk by my bishop, and I'm told that they're going to start disciplinary council proceedings or an investigation on me. About 6 months later, I get called in by Brian King, who's a local orthopedic surgeon, and he tells me they're going to call a disciplinary council on me, not just for my LGBT work, but for my support of ordained women, for the openly expressed doubts that I had supported. And you all, hopefully, some of you know how that story ended. In February of 2015, I was excommunicated from the church. And I have to say that a lot of people think that I'm this sort of angry, evil Mormon hater. And I just want to tell you, this was definitely one of the most painful things that's ever happened to me. I didn't want to be kicked out of the church. We were active in the church until this final round of investigations. I would still be raising my kids in the church today if they hadn't have kicked us out, because I had this hope that the church could expand to accept doubters and questioners and even skeptics and non-believers and gays and lesbians and feminists, that we could be this sort of expansive church. And I was honestly putting the church's feet to the fire to see if they would make those changes. And maybe I pushed a little bit too hard, a little bit too soon. But I want you to know that this was one of the most difficult moments of my life, and I still feel like I'm healing from it. As strident and as, critical as I can sometimes be. And so I guess the way I want to end is to say, I still feel like I'm a Mormon. Like, believe it or not, I still feel very Mormon. Now, I don't feel like I'm LDS anymore. I'm not a member of the LDS Church. I certainly don't believe its fundamental truth claims. I don't even know sometimes if I believe in God or Jesus. I'm still working that out. But I still feel very Mormon culturally. And to be honest, I don't think there's any black hats here. I don't think Brian King was evil. I don't think Joseph Smith was evil. I don't think Gordon Romney was evil. And I don't think that I'm a saint. I've made a lot of mistakes in the past 10 to 20 to 46 years. There are no black hats and there are no white hats. We are all trying to do our best to make this life meaningful. We're all living according to our conscience. And that's something that's really important. But what I will say is this. I believe firmly that ideas matter. And one of the beautiful things about Mormonism were all these beautiful ideas that Joseph Smith came up with, right? Eternal life, eternal families, degrees of glory. Even proxy work for the dead was an attempt to make sure that everybody makes it back, right? And temple marriage is this grown out of his fear that maybe Alvin and maybe my Joseph Smith Sr. won't make it to heaven. And so we want to get them all with us. So maybe if they don't get baptized in this earth, we can baptize. I mean, it was all beautiful. I think there was a lot of intent. And even the polygamy stuff, as hard as it is, I don't think it was purely sexual. I think it was partly sexual, but I also think Joseph was getting sealed to other men. Like, we don't fully understand his impulse, and I believe that there was this impulse that he had that's just, let's all be sealed together as one big family, and that's a beautiful impulse of Mormonism. But the challenge is there are some not so beautiful parts of Mormonism too. And maybe we've talked a little bit about that today. So religion can teach you some good values, but it can also teach you some really bad values. Religion can, and so our job, those of us who are leaving a religious tradition, and even those of us who are transforming within a religious tradition, we have really important work to do. I'm here to tell you, I've been counseling transitioning in post-Mormons now for 10 years, maybe 15 years. And I'm telling you that the answer to happiness is not leaving your religion, okay? There are plenty of people in this world, I'm getting this from John Larson, this quote from John Larson of Mormon Expression. There are plenty of people who would have done better to just stay in their religion based on how they manage their life after they leave their religion. Because guess what? Number one, life is perilous. And number two, it turns out that a lot of those values that we were taught as Mormons are actually really, really good and valuable. So our job, whether we're progressive or post-Mormons or never Mormons or purely secular people, is to figure out how not to throw the baby out with the bathwater, how to maintain these core values, including community, in a way that edifies and builds and that lets us still live this beautiful dream, even if it's not necessarily connected with an organized religion. So some of the values that I'm holding on to as a post-Mormon are honesty, kindness, service, love, and community, right? And that's what we're doing here. Also, family. I don't know why I have two slides there. I'll add family. Not throwing my family away. You guys happy to hear that? You guys are safe. You're in. Other things are out. You guys are staying. Is that okay? Good. Margie's happy about that. What I'm not going to hold on to from the way I experience Mormonism, and maybe you don't experience Mormonism this way, what I experience from Mormonism is it's a bit patriarchal, meaning that kind of the men are in charge and the women are kind of second tier. Now, that's how I see it. You may not see it that way. For me, I think we're best. I love seeing Amy up here conducting. That makes the hair on my arm stand up, right? I think that when we tell our women that they have this place that's not quite equal to the men and not quite part of all the meetings, we're a lesser people because of that. So I'm not going to hold on to patriarchy personally. I'm not going to hold on to bigotry. I refuse to believe that people have dark skin because God cursed them because of the wickedness of their ancestors. You may say that's not Mormon doctrine, but read the Book of Mormon. That's the central premise of the Book of Mormon. Now, I'm not attacking the Book of Mormon. I'm just saying that's a part of the Book of Mormon I'm not going to hold on to. And I'm also not going to hold on to the idea that people who decide that they want to love somebody of the same gender because they feel like they were born that way and they tried to change it and they couldn't. And so now they just want that beautiful, committed, loving, monogamous marriage that so many of you right now enjoy. Just because some people want that, that doesn't make them wicked and evil and apostates in my mind, right? So I'm letting that go, okay? I'm letting go of exclusivity. Oasis isn't the one true secular community, and Christianity for me isn't the one true religion. Like, we all have good and bad, and we're all trying to figure out this human journey. And it's no longer exclusive. Science isn't my God. Secularism isn't my God. Darwin's not my God. Hitchens and Dawkins are not my gods, right? I want to make my God like kindness and love and charity and family and community. Those are my new deity. And of course, I'm getting rid of the idea that if God's going to be speaking, that I have to have him speak to somebody else before I can hear what he has to say. If God's going to speak, I'm here. I'm waiting, right? And until he speaks to me, I'm going to just go about living the happiest and healthiest life that I can. And that's what Oasis is all about. And that's what I want to end with. In some sad way, Mormonism led me out of Mormonism. Maybe it's not sad because maybe the church is happy that I'm gone, right? And I know that my family is doing happier and better now than maybe we were 5 years ago. But what I love about Oasis is if ideas matter, these are some ideas that I can get behind, right? That people are more important than beliefs, even more important than like evolution or science or skepticism. I hope that in this community, we always care more about the individual than whether we agree on topics. And that's why I asked you to bear with me as I talked about something hard so that we could practice together this principle of saying that you may disagree with me, but you know what, that's okay. That's all right. It's good because people are more important than values. And so that's a value that we have here in Oasis. Reality is known through reason. I love the scientific method. I love skepticism. I love our beautiful, logical brains. And I think they're valuable. Emotion's valuable too. Spiritual is valuable too. But I think the best way to understand reality goes through the religion, the reason process, in addition to emotional and spiritual. Meaning comes from making a difference. I love that there are service projects that we're doing. And I love that we're trying to be something in each other's lives. And so even though JP's talk may have seemed a little bit technical for some of you, right? JP's trying to share with us something that's really benefited him, right? It's meant a lot to him. And he's trying to make a difference by sharing something sacred to him with us. And that's special. So even if someone gives a talk that's different, we're all trying to make life meaningful. And I don't think we do that by sitting in our homes, watching cable TV, browsing the internet, and just isolating ourselves. I think community is a beautiful place to create meaning for ourselves and for others. Human hands solve human problems. That's the service. If Oasis weren't doing service activities, I wouldn't be interested. But if you hear in Houston and in Kansas City, the service projects that they're doing, it's not just like 30 people showing up to someone's house and raking the leaves. They're like going to a warehouse where there are tens of thousands of books, and they're boxing the books together into boxes and then shipping them to poor kids all throughout the United States so that they can start a home library in their home even though they don't have a lot of money. That's a beautiful thing. They're standing in line in soup kitchens and feeding the hungry. They're doing blood drives at their Sunday services where you're like, yeah, you're listening to the stuff, but you're rotating out and giving blood while you're at church or church-like experience. I think that's beautiful. And then the final value that I think is so beautiful is be accepting and be accepted. So we will have believers and non-believers. We will have skeptics and all sorts of different things. But hopefully we can model this idea that we should accept each other and love each other and be accepted. So to close, I just want to say that I started by talking about my pioneer ancestry, right? Started with William Brigham Parkinson, and I talked about how he came from England and crossed the plains. I'm still proud of my Mormon heritage. I still consider myself a Mormon in some ways. And most importantly, one of the most beneficial things I learned from my experience in primary were the pioneer values. And these pioneer values included courage and strength and determinism. The courage to leave something behind, right? Everyone who was a pioneer had to leave behind a tradition. Often their parents' tradition. Often the comfort of a home, right? Or a community. They left behind that comfort and their security and their tradition to blaze a new path, right? They dreamed about a better way. Maybe they didn't have to trash what they had, but they said, we can do better, right? And so that was what fueled them forward. They had to explore new territory that had never been explored before. We're kind of doing that here. The secular community thing is like 3 years old in the history of mankind in the way we're trying to do it, right? So we're exploring new territory, and we're trying to build something new that's beautiful. We're not about trashing and criticizing the past. We're about asking ourselves, what is something beautiful that we can build for the future? Maybe to leave to our children and grandchildren, who knows? It may catastrophically fail what we're doing here, but what if it's a little successful? If it only makes us, the next few years of our lives, happier, I think it'll be a success. But one of the cool things about pioneering is, what if this actually leads to something really cool for our children or our grandchildren? I think it's worth the effort. So that's me. I think I'm still that young 17-year-old optimistic boy. Maybe some of you see my light has dimmed. I like to think that my light is shining as brightly as it's ever shined. Not to be prideful, but just to say, that's how I feel. I feel proud, I feel happy, I feel hopeful, and in some way that's really weirdly Mormon. So to end, I want to share with you a poem by a woman who I've already referenced today, which is Carolyn Pearson. She gave this beautiful poem called Pioneers, and for those of you who are leaving a religious tradition, and specifically Mormonism, this poem is for you, and it's beautiful and it's dense with meaning. And so I'm going to have Robert close today by sharing with us the poem.
Pioneers. My people were Mormon pioneers. Is the blood still good? Truth flew by like a dove and dropped a feather in the west. Where truth flies, you follow if you are a pioneer. I have searched the skies, and now and then another feather has fallen. I have packed the handcart again, packed it with the precious things, and thrown away the rest. I will sing by the fires out there on that uncharted ground, where I am my own captain of tens, where I blow the bugle, bring myself to morning prayer, map out the miles, and never know where or when or if at all I will finally say this is the place. I face the plains on a good day for walking. The sun rises and the mist clears. I will be all right. My people were Mormon pioneers.
Thank you. And so I'll leave you with that. I love just a couple lines from that really stick with me. Where truth flies, you follow if you are a pioneer. And then she says, I face the plains on a good day for walking. The sun rises, the mist clears. I will be all right. My people were Mormon pioneers. I think in some way what we're trying to do here is in the same spirit as our pioneer ancestry. For those who want to stay in their religious tradition, let us bless them, let us celebrate them, let us support them, let us never speak ill of them, let us never think we're better than them, right? But for those of us who feel like we want or need something to persist, let's catch this spirit and see if we can do something beautiful together. And that's what this is about. So I love you all, beautiful people. And for those of you who want to give this a try, let's see what we can make happen. So thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Thank you for sharing your beautiful story with us and for getting really vulnerable. And that was a wonderful presentation. So we're going to have another musical number here in a minute, but I'd first like to talk a little bit about donations. I'd love to encourage everybody, if they can, to consider donating to Cache Valley Oasis. We are a 501c3 or an official nonprofit organization. All donations are tax deductible and go towards renting this facility and supporting Oasis events and opportunity services. So during this last song by Afton, I'll just be passing around this box. And I know I often don't have a lot of cash on me, so we are going to pin our PayPal account to the Facebook page and group at the top. So if you'd like, feel free to donate there, and we appreciate it. So help me invite Afton back up to the stage.
Okay, this last song I chose was partly because I'm music directing with Four Seasons Theater Company, Beauty and the Beast, and we just cast the show last weekend. So I've been working on music a lot, and the song that I'm going to sing for you is called A Change in Me, and I just thought the lyrics were especially appropriate, not just for me, but possibly for some of you. There's been a change in me, a kind of moving on. Though what I used to be, I still depend upon. For now I realize that good can come from love, that may not make me wise, but it makes me glad. And I never thought I'd be my childhood dreams, but I don't I'm where and who I want to be. No change of heart, a change in me. For in my dark despair, I finally understood my perfect world up there had disappeared. But its place I feel a truer life begin, and it's so good and real. It must come from within, and I never thought I'd leave behind my childhood dreams, but I don't no change of heart, a change in me. A change of heart, a change
Thank you all for coming. Help me thank everybody who performed and presented today. Such a wonderful program. John, JP, Afton, John. It's been wonderful. Thank you for sharing your talents and your thoughts and your experiences. We're so grateful. And for all of you for coming. We want to thank Robert Miller in the back for doing all the IT technical stuff. He's a magical miracle worker back there. And Amelia Gutkey for getting the kids' room and for all the people that have been helping in there. And if you'd like to give a community moment or be a musical guest, or you know somebody that would be a great featured speaker, please feel free to reach out via Facebook, or you can email cachevalley.oasis@gmail.com. You can expect featured speakers in the future. We've got a really great lineup set up. Our next Sunday meeting will have the professor from the university talk about secularism in China like we spoke about earlier. We're going to have someone from CAPSA coming soon. We've got therapists coming. We have an ecologist coming from the university. So this is going to be a really great place to come and learn new things and to build community like John was saying. So again, if you haven't, go to the Cache Valley Oasis Facebook page, like it so you can see what's going on and get involved in any service opportunities and our Sunday meetings and events. Thank you again for coming. We do have just a few refreshments in the other room. It's a big area where we can socialize and get a bite if you'd like. So thanks again for coming, and have a great day.